welcome back. We are in phase 2 of the turkey mouth read basics video series, if you will. I don't know, phase 2, video number 2, whichever way you want to call it. That's fine. But in the first video, we went over kind of like super basic stuff, terminology, understanding how a mouth read is made, just to gain better concept of the overall project. In this video series, we're hoping to actually put concept into reality, put the mouth reads in our mouth, make some turkey noises, and kind of get an understanding of how this actually works. I'm hoping by the end of this video that we are going to be able to understand how to properly position a mouth read in our mouth, generate the proper air presentation, as well as some basic mouth mechanics. Now, those mouth mechanics, we're going to dive into a little bit deeper because a lot of them are going to be the basis for more advanced notes further down the line. But this is a great time to start playing around with them when we're not taking anything too seriously, to understand how we're going to manipulate things to get not only more, but better turkey sounds. First thing, grab your mouth read pack, okay? I want you to dig around in here and find the reed that is the uncut reed. You can tell it's uncut because there's no cuts in the top of it. It's just a straight line that's all the way across. We need to identify how this thing goes in our mouth. Mouth reeds do have a top and bottom. So you will see that the top, okay, is the longest piece of latex, okay? That's the top of the mouth reed. What I want you to think is top to top. So that means the top of the mouth reed, the longest piece of latex, in this case it's the uncut one, but the longest piece of latex goes to the top of my mouth. Now you're going to see there's this little U that's cut in here, okay? That's where the diaphragm is open. I can touch all the latex. That U needs to be pointing outward towards my lips, okay? So top to top, that's out, that goes in our mouth. Now, as far as positioning goes, if you take your tongue and kind of run it across the roof of your mouth, you're going to feel where your palate goes from flat and starts to curve around and meets your gums and teeth, okay? This mouth reed kind of needs to ride right at that basis there. When I'm taking mine, I'm pushing it forward in my mouth about as far as I can without actually having the mouth reed pitch and end up touching the back of my teeth. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to feel very uncomfortable, especially if you're new to this concept, okay? Everybody has a different shaped palate. All of us are very, like, from a sensitivity standpoint, gag reflexes, what feels natural, what feels funny. It's going to feel like you literally have peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. You'll get over it sooner or later, but this is a good time to talk about modifying these in case if we have something that's just not working. If you notice that the tape is curled around so hard that it's actually like bleeding onto the edges of your teeth on the inside of your mouth, we need to trim that back. So when you're trimming these, try to remember that a little bit goes a very long way, okay? So the main areas to trim would be down the sides or potentially across the back. Sides if the tape's bleeding over onto your teeth, the back if you just literally can't get over that gag reflex. But again, I caution you, don't trim too much. If you trim it down and there's not enough tape, it will not seal to the roof of your mouth, and this whole venture is basically useless at that point. That has to seal. So try to point out a difference between, oh, that feels weird, and something's completely wrong. They are two separate things. Now let's talk about air presentation. This is important because it is not a huff. We're not going to and walk this. We deal with this in waterfowl so much it's ridiculous. But what I want you to think of is not necessarily like fogging up a window or anything else. I like to think of it as trying to blow a piece of paper across the table. So if I wanted to actually blow a piece of paper and keep it moving all the way across the table, I wouldn't just give it a very quick, hard burst of air, meaning as hard as I could. It's going to stop. So I hold this pressurized air and I blow a long stretch of it. Practice that, okay? Get to that point. Your tongue plays an important role in this as well. I want you to think of your tongue as a pressure valve, okay? So if my tongue mashes to the roof of my mouth, that's me shutting off the pressure. There's no more air moving. As I let my tongue down, more air can escape. Air and your tongue to coincide with each other is an important concept that kind of might be hard to grasp. So I've got a simple way to try to get you to understand how those two tie together. Have you ever seen a sprinkler that's sitting on a lawn, you know, and it makes that you notice the sound that I'm making, okay? If you try to do that exact same thing, you're going to feel that you're holding pressure, the tongue goes to the roof of your mouth, and when you're trying to make each individual sprinkler sound, what happens? You go, your tongue drops down and pops right back up. I need you to get that concept ingrained in your head, that your tongue is the pressure valve, not your diaphragm. So we avoid huffing. We've got the positioning of the mouth reed in our mouth. Everything's correct. We're somewhat comfortable with it. We maybe trimmed or modified something. We're understanding air pressure as far as holding good solid pressure and blowing that bead of air. And we've got our tongue as the relief valve. So let's put all three of these things together and start actually making some weird turkey noises. And I'm going to warn you right away. I'm not even attempting to make you sound like a turkey. I am trying to get you to understand the concept so that way we can eventually sound like a turkey. So this next portion of the video, you may want to turn down the volume or dumb it down or do something different because we are going to make some god-awful noises. So with that being said, let's do all three of them. I'm going to start by pushing my tongue all the way up against the mouth reed and preventing any air from escaping. Okay, so let's try that first. And you can hear I'm pushing air and I'm moving. It looks like the big vein in my head's gonna pop. That's okay. I'm holding pressure. My tongue is being a pressure valve. It's doing everything correctly. Now I'm gonna do that same exact thing, but I'm gonna slowly start backing off. And you're gonna notice that our mouth reed is gonna start making some noise. The harder the pressure against the mouth reed, the higher pitch you're going to get. So I'm gonna start as tight as I possibly can, work down, you'll hear it start to make some noise. It'll be high pitched and god awful. And as I start to relax even more, we're going to get more rasp, we're going to get deeper, and it's going to start sounding a little more like the back end of a yelp. And the top. And then you saw, eventually I got rid of enough pressure that the mouth reed stopped operating altogether. That should help you identify one or two really important things, okay? Number one, if you have way too high of a pressure, meaning your tongue slammed up against the mouth reed, they don't operate. If your tongue is too loose, they don't operate. We need to find that happy medium. So again, we're gonna do that same thing, push it all the way up, back off, and I want you to back off until you just hear it stop being the super high pitch and it starts to roll over into kind of that medium sort of raspy range. Right there, okay? You need to find where that point is because that's going to be about home base. That's right in the middle. We haven't engaged the top end and pushed enough pressure to get high pitch stuff, but we're also not so loose that we're engaging a whole bunch of rasps. So we're finding that middle portion. Now let's start taking all of this and putting it together to form the first and most important turkey note in the turkey vocabulary, if you will, a yelp. But you'll notice a yelp starts out high pitch and then drops on the back end. Knowing what we know now, I'm pushing our tongue to the roof of our mouth, getting a high pitch end, and then dropping down, we're already establishing a yelp. The only thing we got to do is speed it up and get a rhythm about it. So we'll start slow, and we're just going to work our way into it. You can see I've got my hand flapping here because that's just representing my tongue and what it's doing. Starting up at the roof of my mouth, I get the high end of the yelp, and then when I drop my tongue, I get the low end of the yelp. Yelp, 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 yelp. Practice that a bunch. That's the basis of everything. Now, as far as other concepts with our cheeks, our lips, our tongue, all of that stuff, okay? Mouth mechanics. This plays into a whole bunch of other stuff. You can manipulate the volume, tone, raspiness, all of the above by what's going on. Think of it in how you speak, right? You're watching my lips move, everything else. That's how I accentuate certain things. If I want to say P, I can put a lot of pressure behind that and get a more of a pop factor that's out of that. That's important. If I open my mouth really, really wide, I'm going to talk deeper. If I clench my teeth, I'm going to get a little bit raspier noise. Mouth reeds respond to that same stuff. So while you are attempting to make that basic yelp, pay attention to what the front end of everything's doing. Meaning, if I close down my lips, when I say close, just lightly touch them. If I have my mouth open, if I close my lips, get a much different sound. If I grit my teeth, if I drop my jaw and try to make an O shape, I'm making different birds. Mouth mechanics will play huge as we start getting into some of our other notes that are harder to make and more importantly, get you more diversity in your turkey sounds. So really pay attention to what you're doing from a mouth mechanic standpoint because it will totally change what noises you are actually able to make. So with that, this is a great place to stop this video. We've got the basics as far as getting a mouth reed in our mouth air presentation, how that tongue pressure valve works, and this is a great point for you to jump off and go practice your ass off for a few days to get this right. In our next videos, we're going to start talking about identifying your air channel, how that's going to play in with the other cuts that are in your bag, and some other notes and other concepts that are going to be much more advanced. I'll be sure to link that in the description down below. But thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.